what is the crisis? The crisis is children, young boys, people living in tents in northern France, regularly having their tents and all their belongings destroyed by the police every 24 hours, and the no fixation policy, massive deforestation all around the northern France, Calais, Dunkirk area to stop people being able to camp, just absolutely like inhuman and degrading, like crimes against humanity occurring, essentially, massive human rights violations. And rather than doing anything to address this, we're giving billions of pounds to private companies that are making massive profits out of human suffering. And then when we look at some of those companies are, some of them are in fact involved in war zones, involved in selling arms and defense and military from displacement, which causes displacement in regions of origin. Then people find themselves flee, and then they find the same companies stopping their movement and like having drones flying above them. And instead of doing anything to help those people, we're just sucking money out of the system from a democratic demand to do more bordering, which will make it more dangerous. So it's like you can frame what is the crisis, what is the problem, and what needs to be done one way or another. But it's certain that this isn't just like a problem that could be solved. It's a situation which some people are extracting massive political value from, and some people are extracting massive economic value from.
I wanted to maybe get some examples of these companies that could explain the crisis, how you would define it. Yeah.
So this border security market is massive globally. So it was $377 billion US in 2023, and it's predicted to more than double by 2032. So not that long.
What is this brief that you're creating?
Oh yeah, so we've created this big database of contracts because we ourselves, we began this work on the contracts because we were thinking, but none of these border controls and these words like stop the boats, smash the gangs, from everything we know from 20 years of our own research about borders, we know that won't stop people from moving. It won't work. And then we started to think, so why would they do it if it won't work? And it'll just sow the seeds of a future crisis and like more death and harm. Mm-hmm. And then we started to think, but does it work? Maybe. Like, who does it not work for? And who does it work for? Okay. So whose interests would be served actually by having this agenda with this never-ending pool, of money that can be spent on it. And so we knew, because we'd done a lot of analysis of the political discourse, we knew that politicians were attempting to extract political value from it and to fight the last election around it. Mm-hmm. But when we started to look into who's profiteering from it, we realised that the scale of the money to be made from this, and actually this is only a very partial view because we were focusing only on the Channel border zone. So it's much more vast if we expanded far into the country with all of the detention centres and the kind of border apparatus. So there were lots of things that we didn't include because we couldn't isolate it to the Channel. Mm-hmm. It's a really interesting range of things. So the average contract is 27 million, but there's ones from almost 2 billion to only £4,000. So the biggest ones are 2 billion to the Bristow Group for helicopters, a billion to Takeva, which is a Portuguese drone company. Serco, who you might know. So there are these companies that sell public services to governments, and they do that all over the world, and they make loads of money from it. So MITI Care and Custody, so they do escorting services in northern France and holding people. So 514 million for them, 130 million for maritime patrol aircrafts, a company called Landau. So all of at Galliford Try got 170 million for doing up those 2 detention centres, which were going to be used for Rwanda. So all sorts of things. There's 96 million for a company called Leidos who do biometrics and fingerprinting. So some of these are like big global companies like Serco and Capita and BAE Systems, Deloitte, Elbit Systems, which is an Israeli defense company, Fujitsu, G4S, MITI, these kinds of ones. But there's also some really, like, this isn't just big companies feeding off the border. It's like an economy all in itself.
Yes.
So that economy has little local companies as well. So the King's Ferry Coach Company received like 2.5, nearly 3 million for coach services for Border Force, for example. There's companies that sell craft and crew to bring people in on small boats. There's a company called Wagtail UK that got 23.5 million for providing sniffer dogs that can sniff humans.
Okay.
There's like fees for legal support, 7.7 million for marquees and temporary accommodation in a day when a lot of people arrived. British event catering that do like catering for parties and things, 700,000 for emergency catering. So there's like all kinds of things.
Yes.
Yes. You know, like enterprise rent-a-car got 13,000 for renting, vehicles, inflatable raft maintenance, a lot of like boat maintenance, boat servicing, dockyards, boatyards on the south coast. So from the kind of local right up to the global companies, there's a whole economy around this, which is really interesting, I think. And it's really hard to
imagine that.
to find out about. Right. And no one speaks about it at all. Whereas we're constantly told about this kind of evil invading force of kind of...
But we're talking about break down the gangs, but the gangs we think of as those people that are helping people cross the channel, providing the boats, which maybe you want to smash those per se, but you're talking about a local known but unknown market that's happening here. But you know, some of those services, if I just had to play the other side, is it not quite normal for government to use private companies to deliver services that are actually needed? So border control is somewhat needed at the end of the day. And instead for just doing it by the government, they've just asked some private companies to do it. That would be an argument that someone would say. But then are you more actually saying it's a far bigger model that's actually happening?
Well, I suppose it depends. That's an ideological position, isn't it? Yeah. Because if you think it's normal for private companies to deliver not so much services, but things that states do, like control their borders, that's like a particular neoliberal view of how governments should interact with the private sector, or whether they should do it themselves. So I think when we're doing this and tracking these contracts, we're not really looking to say, this is great or this is awful. We're looking to say, isn't it interesting that all of this money is being spent on border control? We know that people will continue to cross, and that because of these efforts, people will continue to cross, taking more dangerous journeys, and so more people will be harmed and die. And isn't it interesting that we never spend any time talking about it at all in the public space, and that it's so difficult to get any public accountability or conversations like in the public sphere about it, compared to like smugglers who are often represented as gangs, whether they're in gangs or not.
So then, I guess, why do you think this has not been talked about in the public space? Why not by the media or effectively by campaign groups?
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? When you compare it to other things. So recently...
It's quite striking, those statistics, those things that you just told me, and even opened my eyes on it.
So the governments tend not to be shy about saying how much money they're spending on things in order to say that's a bad thing. So recently there's been a lot of discussion about the disability payments.
Yes.
disability welfare payments, which we know over the period of austerity have just become extremely difficult to kind of meet the bar to qualify for those kinds of payments. And it's been in the media for like a decade or so, I think. So there are many topics where they want to say we spend all this money and it's a problem. But on this, well, they'll spend all this money, but it won't stop people. It won't stop small boat channel crossings.
Yes.
We don't ever want to spend 1 second talking about how much it's costing.
No, we don't.
So I don't know. I guess as an academic, I'm just interested in those kinds of discursive differences and what there's a lot of noise about and what there's a lot of silence about. I'm interested in how much noise there is about smugglers who we have a massive body of evidence. So we know why smuggling exists globally, and we know that it just feeds off the borders. And so you can't stop smuggling with more bordering. You'll just have more smuggling if you had more bordering. So you'll never smash the gangs. They're not just like 3 gangs and you can catch them in a net. They're like just a pool of highly dispersed people. You replace their very like responsive and what's the word? Opportunistic. Like people will always pop up. Like you're on a forever mission to smash the gangs, basically. And you know that the border controls have produced the gangs. So in spending billions more on the borders, you know the smuggling is the flip side of it. You know that you're producing demand for smuggling all the time, off into the future. So it's interesting never to speak of it now, how much you're spending on that, or if that's a good thing to spend money on. So I think the conversations that we have in the public sphere on issues like this are so constrained and so limited that it has to be like a yes, no, good, bad, we should do this or we should do that kind of thing, rather than like this is really complex problem with a set of interacting things, and we could stop the boats tomorrow, but that would mean we would have more people applying for asylum. That's a trade-off. And so then you could have a conversation about that, but there's no conversation. So yeah, I think it's interesting.